Welcome to the Real Estate Pros Show, where we interview real estate investing professionals from coast to coast, as well as the service providers that serve the real estate investing industry. Our goal is simple: share what's working now to help you improve and scale your business to the next level and meet the pros that can help you get there. Real Estate Pros is powered by Investor Fuel, America's leader in helping real estate investors and professionals build the business you need to live the life you've always dreamed of. Let's start today's show. Property insurance for real estate investors doesn't have to be difficult, but it does need to be there to protect you when you need it. MyInvestorInsurance.com not only provides insurance at 15 to 30% cheaper than traditional agencies, it's built specifically for real estate investors like you. You can set up an account in about 2 minutes, get quotes on properties, turn on and turn off insurance for your fix and flip or rental properties in around 2 minutes without having to talk to anyone directly, all through our portal. There's no better way or faster way to make sure you've got the coverage you need to protect you, and no more lengthy policies either. Once you're set up, you're billed monthly and prorated by the day for however long your policy is active. It's powered by MSI, the third largest independent MGA, with 1.5 million customers and more than $1 billion in cumulative premiums written. Get set up today in about 2 minutes at myinvestorinsurance.com/fuel.
Hey folks, welcome back to the show. I'm your host, Dylan Silver, and today on the show I have builder, custom homes, certified contractor, Elliot Meadows, certified contractor, Elliot Meadows Custom Homes out of beautiful Daytona Beach, Florida. Elliot Meadows. Elliot, welcome to the show.
Thank you, sir. Dylan, how are you?
It's a good day out here in Denton. I'm glad because we had tornado warnings earlier this week, and now no tornado ended up happening. So it's one of these deals where you kind of brace for impact and nothing happens. So we're glad to be here. How's it over there?
Nice. It's beautiful. Mostly cloudy, 76, high of 93. No, it's going to be really good. We got some family in town. We're going to spend some time on the boat this weekend, and we had an amazing week. So yeah, it's time well deserved.
You know, I'm jealous, and I tell everybody this who's from Florida. I said, I don't know what's in the weather or the water or whatever, but there's so much real estate entrepreneurism that seems to be attracted to Florida, every area of Florida. You know, you're in Daytona Beach, you know, other people, you know, Fort Lauderdale, Miami, St. Petersburg. I'm sure there's lots of areas that I don't know about. And every time that I go through any part of Florida, I say, man, this is nice. You know, and I'm in Texas, so I think that says something about Florida. But you're actually Florida kind of by way of Houston as well.
Correct. I was born in Houston, still have family in Houston and in Dallas. They'll be moving here soon, though. Shout out to the Barker clan. But the fact of the matter is, you've got the beaches, you've got the rivers, you've got the springs, you've got NASCAR, you've got Truck Week, Beach Week, Spring Break, Canadian Spring Break, the summertime. I mean, it's beautiful. The only problem is occasionally you get an 85-degree day on Christmas. That's really the only problem. Other than that, Florida's great. The governor's amazing. The legislature's amazing. They do great work. So shout out Chase Tremont, by the way. He's an amazing guy that's in our legislature here in Florida, helps us get a lot of stuff done. I'm the government affairs chairman of the Volusia Building Industry Association also. So we do a lot of work in the community to try to help, make sure that builders are taken care of so that we can build houses for people and they can raise families.
You know, when I think about the real estate space, I think about how I got in not too long ago, actually, 2 years ago. But I'm always curious how my guests got into the real estate space. So, Elliot, how'd you get into real estate?
It's in my blood. My grandfather from Shepherd, Texas and Houston, Texas, rest in peace. James Edward Meadows I was a real estate broker in Texas, had a lot of land, had a lot of acreage, did his own development, had a lot of rental properties, but unfortunately passed away in the early 90s. And, because of how some of the laws work, my parents and my aunts and uncles didn't really get any of that legacy, which was pretty sad. And so those guys have moved to Florida. And my father was actually a real estate broker in the 80s and in the 90s, since retired. And in 2004, unfortunately, I got divorced. actually bought my first home in 2001 when I was 21 years old. Was married to my high school sweetheart. Unfortunately, we got divorced a few years after that, and I ended up selling my first house. And I got really lucky because we bought that house in 2000 and then we sold it in 2004, which was the height of the market before the '07 crash. And so we made like $100,000 on that house, and it was totally amazing. And so I was sold on real estate. I mean, I already loved houses and things, and my dad was a bit of a hands-on guy growing up, and so we learned some carpentry and some stuff. But when I saw how much money could be made in real estate, that's when I was really like, wow, this is it. I've always been driven and passionate about money, unfortunately, because of the things that we didn't have when we were younger. But so in 2004, I bought my first, what turned out to be a multi-unit building. It was an old Victorian house with a little house in the back. And I subsequently converted it into a 6-unit apartment building, which then later got converted to a triplex. And I held it for 15 years. And we figured the math the other day. This is amazing, Dylan. So bought this house for $100,000 in 2004, turned it into 6 units for about 50,000. So let's just say we had 150K involved in it by 2004.
Stop living on an island and join the #1 mastermind in America for professional real estate investors. Investor Fuel is a community of hundreds of the nation's top investors working together to build stronger businesses and better lives. In addition to the amazing community of real estate investors acting as a board of advisors for one another, Investor Fuel members have access to 100% funding on purchase and repairs for our members only, a health insurance program, and benefits and discounts that more than pays for the membership of most of our members, meaning it's actually costing you money to not be a member of Investor Fuel. If you're looking to scale your business and build a business that allows you to live the life of your dreams, please visit investorfuel.com today and book a call with our team.
Held it for 15 years. Over that 15 years, we collected approximately $4,000 a month to $6,000 a month toward the end as rents raised. So $4,000 to $6,000. Let's call it $5,000 a month. So $60,000 per year we made ish on this property for 15 years. So that's $900K. We ended up selling it for 300 and something. So there's another 250,000 profit. So if you subtract out some taxes and some, things that we upgraded and had to pay, we made $1 million on a $100,000 house over a 15-year period holding it. This was a 1903 Victorian in Daytona Beach. So that's the grand story right there, is that if you buy things early and hold them, you can never make a mistake. My grandfather always said, and my dad always said, you can never overpay for real estate.
That'll make me into a real estate investor. You talked about getting in and then selling your first home kind of at the height down there. But before we hopped on here, we talked about something that's particularly interesting to me, and I'm curious how you got into sort of these land plays, right? You talked about on a personal, the RV, and there's really two ways where my head goes with this. Number one is I love land. I haven't really done any land deals. I've looked at them, but I've had a lot of guests on this show who talk about land. And then number two is, there's a lot of people who are builders who also aren't involved in investing, and you're doing both, which I think is great. But was it always the case? Was it always, hey, I'm gonna do both of these, or did one kind of take a back seat at any point in time?
So there's levels to this, just to start that off. You can't really, even if you have a ton of money, it's not super smart to just jump into a big land deal without having an expert on your side. And I would consider myself an expert. There are other experts out there that can do land deals, but just because you've got, a windfall of money, don't think you can just go out and buy 20, 30, 50 acres, 100 acres, and it's going to be successful. Definitely talk to a professional, a realtor, a contractor, environmentalists, surveyors. These are the people that you need to really talk to before you do anything on land. I just want to say that first. But so after the 2004 windfall that we had on that little house that we bought, I went into property as hard as I could. I ended up with 37 units, 3 multifamilies.
Holy cow.
Yeah, I asked my dad and my stepmom to co-sign for me.
You're 24 and buying 37 units.
Yeah.
No kidding.
Yeah. Yeah, at that point, I had worked at a building company called Masterpiece Homes for about 3 years. So I was making pretty decent money. I also had a few rental properties by that point. So I had the 6 units on Magnolia. I bought another one in my own name. I got my parents saw how good I was doing. So I got my dad and my stepmom, who my stepmom has been at a hospital for 35 years. So she had great credit. She signed for me on 17 units on 2 buildings. Later on, we cashed her back out and she's done with that. But so in '07, '08, it crashed.
Yeah.
So and I had 37 units and I lost my construction job. So,
Holy smokes.
and nobody was hiring. So thank God we had the 37 units because those kept us afloat for almost 5 years while there was really not a lot of construction. So I ended up getting my own license to build new construction homes and whatnot in 2009 once I couldn't find a job. Nobody would hire me. I said, well, I got to have to hire myself then, which is good advice to anybody who's having trouble, um, you know, keeping a good job or thinks that they're not getting paid enough or thinks that they're worth more and they know they're a hard worker. They know they can do it. Just hire yourself. That's what I
Yeah.
always say. But, so when that crash happened, an interesting thing happened. So when a recession happens, people don't really think about this, but in this particular case, the Great Recession was so bad that even rents went down.
Mm,
Normally in recessions, people
that
have
doesn't
to
happen.
rent, rents kind of stay elevated or go up. But in this particular case, the recession was so bad that all the people that had apartments and houses had to move back in with mom or dad or grandma, or they doubled or tripled up with families living in one home. And at that point, rents actually went down. Luckily, I never had to foreclose or lose any homes. We bought them.
If you're looking for consistent, high quality leads, look no further than Investor Machine. Investor Machine isn't just another agency, it's the most sophisticated, data driven lead generation company on the planet for real estate investors, and serves the role of being not just a lead generator for your business, but a marketing partner that is helping you achieve your goals along the way. Go to investormachine.com to learn more and schedule a call with our team today.
Well enough, and I did my own maintenance and have my own license, so we were able to hold on to those homes, which turned out, when the market came back in 2017, 2018, I sold all those homes and made really, really good profit. And at that point, building was jamming, it was really going. And so I took all that money from those rental properties and I put it all into new construction lots. So by that point, I had been building new construction homes on my own since about 2010. I built my first duplex. Ended up buying a house through a bank. I got a really good deal on it. It was a 9 unit building. And somebody in the neighborhood burnt it down twice on Christmas Day.
You're in
Um,
duplex?
well, it was a 9 unit building that was
Oh,
there. It was an old building. I was going to do a remodel on it, and the neighborhood didn't want the remodel because it was a pretty bad um, building for that area. It was a really nice area in Daytona,
yeah.
right next to the river. And so the neighbors, or somebody in the neighborhood, I don't want to say who it was, burnt down the house literally twice on Christmas Day, 2010. You can Google this, folks. There's newscasts about it. 220 North Halifax, Daytona Beach. But so it took about a
Whoa.
year, but I ended up demolishing that. And this was in 2010, 2011. There was no money. Nobody wanted to make construction loans. So I
Yeah.
had a little bit of money from the rental properties. So I built my first duplex out of my own pocket. Luckily, about halfway through, a hard money guy drove by and put his card in my job box. And that hard money guy ended up investing in me over the next several years. And we built, probably 25 or 30 houses together. Rest in peace. He's now deceased. But so at that point, I started to become a little bit more of an expert on buying land, because buying land is really tricky. You have to watch out for flood zones and easements and liens on the property and underground things that people have ownership of, rights and mineral rights. I mean, property is scary and is crazy. So when you go and buy a property, I highly recommend you get a 15 to 30-day due diligence and speak to some experts before you close. Far too many people that I've met come to me and they already have their lots purchased. And they go, oh, yeah, we've got this great piece of land. What do we do? And I go, all right, let's get the surveys. Let's do this. Let's do that. And then the surveys come back and it's, 84% wetlands and 15% uplands. I talked to a young woman today. Actually, she's a realtor here in Daytona. She's got a 5-acre piece of property, and they did a delineation, and there's no room. They say it's all wetlands. Basically, there's no room to build the house. Meanwhile, they already bought this piece of property sight unseen because they thought, wow, we're getting a great deal.
Yeah, that's
So be careful, guys.
You know, when I hear all of this, what stuck out to me, Elliot, was you mentioned hiring yourself. Have you ever looked back and said, well, what would have happened, with my business as a builder if I would have gotten hired by someone else during that time frame? How might my life look different?
If you're a new or newer real estate investor looking to launch or grow your real estate investing business, please check out Investor Fuel Club. It's a coaching community, but unlike anything you've ever seen before. And you can actually partner with members of our mastermind from coast to coast on deals right in your market. There's no better opportunity to build a consistent business than to literally partner with pros to help you avoid costly mistakes, avoid the need for capital to do deals, and help you eliminate your fears as you're starting your business. Learn more about Investor Fuel Club at investorfuel.com/club.
I would probably still be working at somebody's shop, making them a millionaire, honestly, because at that point I had a young baby. I was really focused on, trying to provide for her. And, I probably would have taken the safe route, but luckily the recession wouldn't allow that. And my entrepreneurial spirit kicked in. And I was actually depressed for about a year. I don't really talk about this a lot, but that was a tough period of my life from
Sure.
2008, 2009, 2010, when it seemed the bleakest. Rents were going down. I could barely afford the mortgages, the taxes, the insurance on the buildings. I was kicking people out left and right. They couldn't afford the rent, even though the rents were cheaper. I couldn't get a job. I couldn't, do anything. I literally had to get on public assistance for my daycare for my kid in order to do that, which, isn't something that I'm, super proud of, but it goes to show, and I also had to file for bankruptcy, but it goes to show that if you really put your mind to it and you work hard and you don't put up a bunch of excuses and you just go to work every day. I had the 666 method, which isn't cool, but it was wake up and go to work at 6 a.m., come home at 6 p.m., and do that 6 days a week. I did that for 15 years.
Mm.
So now I recommend the 555.
555 is do wake up at 5 a.m.
Yeah, wake up at 5 a.m., do what you're going to do, stop at 5 p.m. so you can have some time with the wife and the kids, and then only do that 5 days a week. Because those other days during the weekend are pretty important, as it turns out, to keep a wife and a family going.
Keep
But
yourself sane, yeah.
but at a certain point, though, if you're young, you don't have a family, I mean, the 666 is the way to go. Or if your wife or your significant other is willing to allow you to work that much, or maybe they have to work that much also, and you can still get that time in together, or you work together. But think about this: if you work 12 hours a day, 6 days a week, that's 72 hours a week. That's like 75% more of a week than everybody else is getting. If you work 40 hours and I work an extra 32, I get an extra week. So if I work for that for 15 years, I actually did it for 30 years.
It's a
Why
whole lot more time.
Yeah. So people ask, how did you do it? How did you make so much
I
money?
work.
How did you get this property? Well, I worked for 30 years in a 15-year period.
I want to pivot here, Elliot, and talk about scaling a business. And then I also want to talk about the scale that it's at today is super impressive. I mean, we talked about, the RV parks. I want to talk a little bit about, working with custom homes and what that field entails, the higher end stuff. And then uh, how did the business look when you were starting out, right? So as someone who maybe has had business experience but hasn't owned a construction company, what did that look like? How were you getting your information? Was there mentorship? Was there a lot of, figuring out on the fly? Where did you go to for information?
Yeah. So in 2010, smartphones were just coming out. And when I took my license in 2009, it was all on paper. It was all paper books. It wasn't digital at that point. I had built about 350 homes with Masterpiece Homes over that 3 or 4 year period. And so that was a really, really, really good college for me. I also built a 36 unit 3 story condo in 2007 up in Palm Coast, and I built an 8 story condo on the ocean in the end and the beginning of '07 and '08. So a lot of that was learning from the guys, the older folks in the field. That were there, and they kind of guided me and taught me. And actually, it was a lot of fake it till you make it. It was a lot of just hard work and grinding it out. And, sometimes you don't know everything, and you just need to know where to find the answer. And don't have so much hubris that you can't ask a question to somebody that knows, or somebody that's doing it, or somebody that's got a little more experience than you. The fool knows everything. The wise man understands he knows nothing. So ask the questions. Don't be afraid. So that's what I would say. I really, really have a thirst and a hunger for knowledge. And so because I had never gone to college, that construction training from those older guys was my construction college. And it's kind of sad because, in '08 and '09, when everything crashed, all those old guys retired. And there was a 5 year period where there literally was no construction. And so um, they're gone. And so a lot of the knowledge that was there is gone with those guys. Thank goodness we've got YouTube and the digital age to teach some of the younger generation, because at this point, I'm actually considering opening up Elliot Meadows Construction College, a trade school, to start
Yeah.
teaching people how to build HVAC, plumbing, trim, carpentry, drywall trades, painting, roofing, block masonry, concrete. These guys that are so I have about 30 or 40 subcontractors. I build about 30 or 40, 50 houses a year. And those subcontractors are all extremely wealthy. They're making a lot of money. Um, I just had an electrician. I just got a bill, $475 to change 6 outlets in a house. Hey, I don't know if you guys are out there and hearing this. I think if you don't have a trade, get into a trade. And then when you're in that trade and you start making a bunch of money, start investing in rental properties. Because as my folks used to say, best way to make money is to make money while you're sleeping.
Correct
And
me
the
if I'm
only, yeah,
Correct me if I'm wrong, but in a lot of, at least in Texas, and I'm curious how it is out there. If you're in trade school, it's definitely different than going to a traditional college because you're actually in many cases getting paid along the way, if I'm not mistaken.
no, a trade
Oh,
school is based like any regular college.
okay.
You're there learning. Now, what a lot of trade schools have is an apprenticeship program at the end of the trade school. Well, they will literally place you at an electrician, a plumber, an HVAC, drywall company, whatever. They'll place you there for an internship. Now, some of those internships are paid, some are not paid. Um, but it's company to company, and depending how bad they need people, um you know is what it is. But right now, if you went to a trade school and you just knew anything about electric, HVAC, or plumbing, you
Yeah.
would get hired immediately that day, and it would be 20 to 22 bucks an hour with that certificate. And then once you were on the job for 3 to 6 months, you might get up to 25. And once you were there for a year or two, making 30, 35, 40 bucks an hour is not uncommon in this game. Now, another thing too is if you've got folks that grew up on a farm, or they're super handy and they can do all sorts of things, or maybe they got a little ADHD and they don't like to do one thing. Handymen are super valuable because, me personally, I'm always looking for handymen to help me at my rental properties.
Yeah.
Handy women. So I have a woman that's a great handy person. Handy person sounds weird, but she's a handy person.
Elliot, I want to talk about RV parks and land in general. We've hit on a couple different subjects here, but specifically, I think there's a lot of interest burgeoning right now around land. I think because for a lot of fix and flippers, fix and flip can be difficult right now with the margins being slimmer. New builds maybe seems to be the way to go, but also RV parks is actually a great investment. And I've talked with a couple people on the show here. It really is something that a lot more people are looking into and considering. How did you start looking at these deals, and what's your general take on the space?
So for many, many years, baby boomers have been the largest cohort in our society, meaning it's the most. They've got the most. And they've got all the money and they've got all the time in the world. So what they've been doing is they've been traveling. They've been purchasing RVs, buses, pull behinds, and they've been going all around the country. And the only problem with that is though, sometimes they get a little tired. And so when they get a little tired, they want to stop and they want to be at a nice spot. So RV resorts in areas that are that have a lot of attractions or have a lot of things for them to do, they're in high demand. And an RV resort is an amazing thing because the ROI is outstanding. These people that pull in for a night are paying $135 a night to have an RV spot, and they stay there 4, 5, 6 nights, whatever. They're paying a huge amount. And so to me, but it's worth it because I personally am an RVer. My dad bought an RV a few years back and I, kind of fell in love with it. And my dad kind of got me sold on it. He's like, son, I'm traveling all around the country and I'm paying a fortune to stay at these RV resorts. Now, some of the people that come in and they stay for 6 months, 8 months at a time or whatever, they get a little bit of a discount. But so most of the RV resorts are doing a blended model. Let's just do a quick math problem. If you have 100 units and you have a blended model, which means 50% of them will be long-term. Let's just use 1,000 a month. So you make 50,000 a month on that long-term group. The other 50% are short-term. Those short-termers are paying, let's just call it $100 a day. That's 3,000 a month. So your average is 2,000 a month per slot times 100. What's the math on that? I think what's the number there, Dylan? If you got 100 units and you're making 2,000 a month, is that 200,000 a month?
100 units. You said
I think it
2,000
is.
a month,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
and
Yeah.
then you said 50%.
No.
Uh-huh.
2,000 a unit times 100 units, 200,000 a month.
Okay, yep, I got that.
All right, so that's what you're bringing in monthly. So that's 2.4 mil a year.
Yep.
Okay. To build 100 RV sites, it costs you approximately 50,000 a site. So now you're talking 5 mil to build it. Plus you got to buy the land. Let's say the land costs you a milli. So now you're at 6 mil, but you're bringing in 2.4 a year. Well, there's some costs associated with that though. You got to run the pickleball court, you got to clean up the dog park, you got to make sure the pool at the court the clubhouse looks good, and you got normally the people that live at the RV park, the older women there run the front desk and the inside, and the older men there get on the golf carts and clean up and help and show the people how to move in and move out and attach their stuff. And they enjoy doing it because they want something to do because they're retired and they're all old, successful people that aren't, they don't love just sitting around. So that's kind of the business model. So let's say you spend, I don't know, let's say you spend 30,000 a month on insurance, facilities, and people. Yeah, let's say you spend 40,000 a month. That's 500 grand a year off your 2.4. Now you're at 1.9 minus whatever you paid. So if you've got a $6 million mortgage, that's about 60,000 a month. So that's about 720,000 a year. So, take your 720 off of your 1.9, and now you got 1.2 million in profit on a 100 unit RV park every year.
And the maintenance is, I mean, you mentioned some maintenance with like facilities, but it's not like you're owning apartments, right? So it's totally different. And honestly, people are generally happy to be there, right? So it's not like there's probably a whole lot of complaining happening or like, things of that nature.
When you build them brand new, there's no maintenance because you're under warranty with all the subcontractors, bumper to bumper for the first year, pretty much for the second year too. And we always do a structural 10-year insurance plan so that even if anything crazy happened to whoever did any of the work, we'd still be covered structurally. But yeah, when you build it new, everybody wants to be there too, because you got some old parks in the community. Yeah. But when you build it new, everything works. They've got the high-speed data. They've got the new dog park. We got the new pickleball court. We got the pool. We got the playground for the kids when the grandkids come over. Oh, this is beautiful. We do everything the way that it's supposed to be done. And so, to me, there's no better business. Now we're in talks right now. We haven't actually built one right now. We're in talks on a couple different pieces of property to do our first one. But what I just explained to you is the business plan that I wrote out. And what I did is I went to every single RV park in Volusia County. There's like 10 of them. And I took all of their numbers for each month and what they were charging and how many slots they had. And I did this beautiful business plan. And I didn't show it to anybody but myself because I was the one that had to be sold on it. And I'm all in. And you don't have any kitchens. It's really easy.
Yeah.
Really easy. Easier than rental properties, I can tell you. But the problem is to get into something like that, you got to be able to qualify for $6 to 10, $15 million, depending how big the deal is. Like 300 units is going to be a $15 million deal. But on 300 units, you make $3.6 million in profit a year.
I mean, once again, I'm blown away at the possibilities with land. This is not the first conversation that I've had on it, and each time that I have these conversations, it's like the red car theory, right? So I'm in the greater DFW area, and I was like, "Where's the RV parks?" And I'm like, "Where are they? I don't see them." It turns out as I leave the street that I'm on in Denton and make a right, there's an RV park right over here, and then you going down and I'm like, well, I'm actually in the outskirts of DFW. So there's actually more RV parks over here.
Hey, do this, Dylan. Call one and say, hey, do you have any slots available? Call one, see if you can get a slot when we hang up. Call one, see if you can get a slot today. They're going to be like, no, sorry. We're about 3 weeks out. And then you're going to go, whoa, let's do it.
Yeah, I mean, that's the business model, proof and concept right there. We are coming up on time here, Elliot. Where can folks go to learn more about your business and to get a hold of you?
So my phone number is 386-233-1111. This is not a job. This is a lifestyle. Call me day or night. Text me. You can get me on Instagram at Elliot Meadows Builds. We got some good content there. We've got our own YouTube channel. ELLIOTMEADOWS is the spelling. We've got a great website, ElliotMeadows.com. You can also get me on Facebook. I use my private Facebook, 30% for construction, 30% for fun, and 30% for inspiration. So if you want to, I don't know what the other 10 is, by the way. I know I'm missing 10% in there. I'm not sure. But if you want to get me on any of those things, you can. And if you want to do some deals, listen, if you want to put some money to work and actually make an ROI, come talk to me.
Elliot, it's been a pleasure to have you on the show here today. Congrats on all your success and to your continued success.
Thank you, buddy. I appreciate it. Let's do it again.
Thanks for joining us for today's Real Estate Pros Show. You can learn more about the amazing benefits of the Investor Fuel Mastermind community, including surrounding yourself with hundreds of other rock stars, 100% financing for your deals, and members-only discounts from vendors you're likely already using that, as a member of Investor Fuel, will save you more than the cost of your membership. Visit investorfuel.com to learn more. If you're interested in joining us as a guest of this show, please visit investorfuel.com/pros to apply. You can also check the show notes for access to free resources, how to get access to world-class lead generation, and much more. Don't forget to subscribe so you never miss another episode. Have a great day. We'll see you on the next show.